This is Matt for Into Boxing. We are finally getting to speak to Eddie Hearn.
I saw you on Briedis. Stop it. Stop it.
Oh, so you've seen that then. Well, we may as well start there before we knock on to Wood and Conlan, because Briedis, it's one of the surprises of this year. I'm a bit speechless about it. What's your take on that whole situation with Jake Paul?
I don't know what he's doing. I mean, you got Briedis. He's a current fighter, right? Brilliant fighter, right? Jake Paul is never going to fight him in a million years. Why would he? And he's every day calling out Jake Paul. He's got a tattoo. I mean, it is the most cringe thing I've ever... I actually went on his Instagram and I had to say to him, stop. I don't even really know the guy. And I never comment on things like that, but I was like, mate, do yourself a favour, stop it. Stop it now. You know what I mean? So anyway, he's a funny fucker. I don't know what he's doing. Hopefully he just fights Lawrence Okolie.
Well, we'll come on to that then. Lawrence Okolie, Briedis. Is there an offer to be made by the Salons to you, or how's that going to work?
We were told there would be after his last fight. We've never received an offer. Happy to receive an offer. We can make an offer, but he has a mandatory that we've been told he has to fight next. Obviously, Lawrence is now fighting Sislak. Hopefully, we can just make that fight for the summer, because he ain't fighting Jake Paul. I'll give you a clue. So hopefully, we can just make a big unification.
Absolutely. Let's come on to today. Lee Wood in Nottingham, his home city, against Michael Conlan. Michael Conlan's very confident. Every time I've met him, he just exudes that. He comes across really well. You should have been wearing your Stone Island today. We're going to kick off, aren't it? Yeah. Gone for the suit. What do you make of this fight? It's a great way to kick off this year.
Brilliant fight. That's why I paid a lot of money for it. The purse bid. We beat Top Rank in the purse bid. Of course, Michael Conlan is headlined on ESPN in America. He's headlined on BT. This is a big fight for DAZN, but it's a really good fight. It's got a little bit of Frampton Quiggs about it, with the Adam Booth and Ben Davison and Jamie Conlan, and we'll have a lot of fun at the presser tomorrow in Belfast. But there's a lot on the line. For Lee Wood, he's come the hard way. He's come from the small hall shows, 6-rounders, fights have fallen through, he's been defeated, and he's come back and he's headlining in a massive fight for big money at Nottingham Arena, and he deserves it. For Michael Conlan, who of course has had it tough as well in his early career, but as a pro, been given a lot on a plate from ESPN. He won't like that, but it's the truth. He's had a relatively straightforward opponent resume list, or whatever you want to call it, but now he's in deep. But he's a good fighter, and he's got a chip on his shoulder, and he feels, and he's good, and I love it. I love his passion. I love the two going at it, and it just builds to a really, really big fight. It is a tremendous fight.
Makes the fight a lot bigger when there's a bit of need, especially when there's going to be loads of Nottingham. He'll bring an army of Irish fans, especially at the press conference tomorrow. Yeah. But surely now then this only leads to the winner of Warrington versus Kiko Martinez. And is there a chance, two-part question, that his WBA belt will be elevated to super because of inactivity?
Almost certainly. It's ridiculous if it doesn't. I mean, look, they've said for a long time Leo Santa Cruz has got to fight or he'll be stripped or whatever. This is an opportunity to just make one champion in the division, and that's where the WBA seems to be heading with the divisions. I'm very confident this fight will be the super championship, and you're quite right. The winner of this fight goes into the winner of Warrington against Martinez, a massive unification fight, but as Lee Wood said, just focused on this fight.
Heavyweight scene now, I know you've been asked a million times, but we've got to go through it. Tyson Fury, Dillian Whyte purse bids pushed back again to this Friday. We know the split, but what's going on with the legal situation in the background? Is there still an appeal in relation to 80-20, and is there a deal that can get done before Friday?
There's a much bigger legal position and arbitration, and then there's a split problem. I'll be very surprised if the purse bid goes ahead on Friday. A lot to sort out still, and I don't see us reaching a deal. I don't see a purse bid taking place, but there are a lot of conversations going around everywhere, and sooner or later it's going to come to a head.
For a purse bid to happen on Friday, though, I'm assuming for Dillian Whyte to get anywhere near what he'd want, I'm assuming you'd have to go in pretty deep for him to get a figure that he'd want. Is that something you'll do on Friday if it doesn't get done?
We'll bid a lot of money for this fight. It's a really, really big fight. I'd love to promote it, and obviously we'll be very aggressive in a purse bid.
Talks online, I think it was, I can't remember if it was Benson or Coppinger, one or the other, mentioned about a Middle East fight between Fury and Usyk. But doesn't that have a huge knock-on effect to Dillian Whyte, number one, who's in this ongoing process forever, and Anthony Joshua?
That situation is true, and it's not a conversation between Fury and Usyk. It's a conversation between all parties. Ourselves, because of our involvement with Dillian, with Dillian Whyte, with AJ, of course, because there is still a desire to make Usyk against Usyk against Fury. But to do that, there's got to be a plan for AJ, there's got to be a plan for Dillian Whyte. It's very messy, there's got to be hard contracts in place. There's got to be a huge amount of money, but things can change very quickly. You know, right now we're heading towards Fury against Whyte and Usyk against Joshua too, but could all change in the car on the way home. So we'll have to see what happens.
Interesting times. George Kambosos, he wants Devin Haney. He says, you've got to come to Australia. He holds all the cards. He's the champion. Technically, he's the A side for this fight. Will Devin Haney be willing to go to Australia, and is that a deal that's imminent and something that you're looking to do?
Firstly, you're quite right. He is the champion with the majority of belts. We're happy to go to Australia. We've made that clear to Lou DiBella. Myself and Lou have been talking about the structure of a deal. I believe George Kambosos wants it. It's a chance to find out who's a true undisputed champion at 135 pounds. Not close to a deal, but working hard at a deal, and hopefully we can get it done.
Finally, Katie Taylor, huge fight, Amanda Serrano. You mentioned Madison Square Garden. Will you be looking at putting it in the big arena?
Absolutely. You know, we spoke to Madison Square Garden. They wouldn't even let us put it in a small arena. This is such an iconic fight. You wouldn't be doing it justice to go into the theatre. You've got to go to town with this fight. Two of the greatest female fighters of all time, the biggest female fight of all time. Myself, Matchroom, DAZN, Jake Paul, pushing this fight. This is a massive moment, not just for women's boxing, but for boxing in general.
Because you mentioned this going up against Oscar Valdez and Shakur Stevenson, that you're not bothered because this will do itself.
A great fight. I'm not saying it's not a great fight, but one, that's our date. We're not moving, right? So, is what it is. Two, this fight for me is bigger than Valdez against Stevenson because, and that's a great fight, but because it's iconic, right? Because of the people involved, because of the push, because of the global media. This is the moment for women's boxing that basically changes everything. And people with small minds will say, oh, Eddie's not right about that, because they're clueless and they live in a small world, right? So Valdez against Stevenson, brilliant fight. But in the global media picture, trust me when I say Serrano against Taylor at Madison Square Garden, with me and Jake behind it, DAZN with everybody else, it's a big night for boxing.
I bet you never thought you'd hear yourself saying that with me and Jake Paul behind it.
I love it. Because Jake Paul, although he is a plonker sometimes, has a massive, massive following. He's very bright. He's done a great job with Serrano. He will make this fight huge, huge with us. And he's very, very driven to get respect in the boxing world for doing something like this. Yeah. So his involvement with this fight is more than welcome. And he's a great partner in this fight.
And just finally, Keith Thurman versus Mario Barrios. I've just seen the pay-per-view price for it, $74. Can I get your take on it from someone who runs an app? And
I was told they haven't sold 1,000 tickets for that fight as well. You know, Keith Thurman is not a pay-per-view star. Barrios is not a pay-per-view star. That is not a pay-per-view fight, especially at $75 or 55 English pounds, right? They're killing the pay-per-view market, but it's okay because pay-per-view is not really our business. We'll still do it, but that's not the focus for our business. We're giving value for fight fans, and they're starting to see it. The US subscription numbers in DAZN are going through the roof because people have had enough. It's every other week you're paying $70 for a pay-per-view fight. How much longer can it go on until people get their hands burnt? And guess what? They're going to get their hands burnt badly on Thurman Barrios because he ain't doing 20,000 bites.
Interesting times, Eddie, and thank you for giving me some time for Into Boxing, and we'll catch up again, bud.